Hello and welcome to the B-Ball Podcast. I'm Luke Cummins. Joining me as always is Tyler DeSena. And today, another ranking show. We're getting close to the draft. At the time we're recording this, there's only 20 days left until the NFL draft. We're ranking tight ends. Tyler, are you ready for this?
Dude, this is a fun position. And yes, I am very ready. I think there's an argument to be made that like 8 or 9 guys can be in any given top 5. We have very different lists. I think it's going to be a fun episode and a fun position to look at.
Yeah, so just for a little bit of a prerequisite, we could go to like 11 guys who I think are good tight ends. And it obviously starts to drop off after that, but there are like 11 guys who are going to be good in this league. And if you need a tight end, you might as well get one. I don't care who you are, just draft one. These guys are fun. A lot of them, you know, I don't think there's many guys who need a specific landing spot to be good. I think a lot of these guys could play anywhere. And I think that makes it a very exciting class. So we're going to get right into it. Tyler, is there anyone you want to talk about that isn't going to be in your top 5, but you think is a very good tight end?
I think there's a discussion on so many different guys, but I mean, I'm going to touch on I think 2 of them here I'll kind of bring up. First off, Brendan Strange was like the first one. Like I saw the connection to the Dolphins. Obviously, I had to look into him just because I saw the Dolphins were at the pro day, talked to him a bunch. A player that they're interested in, I'm immediately going to watch. And I get it. The dude blocks a lot better than he gets credit for, in my opinion. He can, block. He's not exactly going to be like the inline, like bullying defensive ends or anything, but he can block at the second level, which is, I think, a big trait for tight ends. Great at that. He moves fantastic in space. I think that's something that's really underrated in his game. He can, he's cutting on guys. He's not just running through you. I think the only issue might be he's a little undersized. The game's not super well rounded. He's not like some elite, route runner or anything, but he was a super fun player. And then I think Luke Shoemaker out of Michigan here, I think was another guy that I wanted to look at. And I was like, that's another well-rounded tight end. Like you said, there's just a bunch. Shoemaker, definitely a pretty good blocker, somebody who moves well in space, is super athletic down the field, and got a bunch of downfield targets. And I think that that's what made him another exciting guy. 2 guys that barely missed my top 5, but guys that, let's just say you miss out on some of the guys that we have up here, you definitely won't mind getting them as a consolation prize.
So I will not be talking about guys who are close to my top 5. I'll be talking about the guys who are a lot of fun. First up on that list is Cam Latu. Now, I am a Bama fan. However, I want to talk about Cam because the guy was a defensive end 2 years ago and is now looked at as someone who could get picked in the NFL at the position of tight end. He's a very, very smart player. He knows how to block really well because of his edge experience. He can read players very well coming off the line. If you need a guy who can inline block and then kind of, kick out, he's made some really good grabs. Like he's athletic. That's what he is. He's an athlete, and he can make things work. I think if you can develop him and you're willing to put the time into him as a team, then maybe you got a chance at like have a guy who can turn into something. And then the other guy I want to talk about is somebody who might not stick at the tight end position, but you take a chance on the kid, and he's got 2 positions that he can play. And that is Oklahoma's Braden Willis, who is probably fullback 1 in the class too. Like there's only really 2 draftable fullbacks, and one of them is listed as a tight end. This kid is fun. You can try him at fullback, or you can try him at tight end. If one of them doesn't work, put him at the other, or you have him play both. Like you can legitimately have this guy go out there on Sunday and play both on a weekly basis. Obviously, he's not going to be your tight end 1, but you have him as tight end 3 and you're starting fullback. You're going to get dividends from this kid at the pick that you can get him at, which is a later round pick. Like it's a day 3 pick that you can take him, and you're going to get a guy who can play on Sunday if you're a team who uses a fullback. It's just, he's a good player, man.
And talking about, Braden Willis, I think in our Eric Gray interview that just went up, I'm pretty sure he mentioned him as somebody that would be on his starting 5 if he created an NBA starting 5 of his teammates. I think that was a guy that he mentioned. So definitely an athlete there. You're talking about that like tight end H-back kind of guy. I mean, I think a guy that comes to mind in that role is Charles Clay, who was really good in the NFL for like multiple years, had like 2 or 3 solid years in Miami, another 1 or 2 in Buffalo. Those are the kind of players that you can draft late, maybe not necessarily are super refined at either position, but have that versatility, and then with their athletic traits can just kind of do a lot for you. So it's definitely, somebody that I think deserves a look at both spots. Everybody knows that doing prospect interviews, talking on a podcast 2-3 times a week, it comes with a necessary confidence that you have to have. And one thing that really improves confidence is the new and improved Performance Package 4.0 by Manscaped. It has arrived, and oh man, is it a game changer. Inside this package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all of these goodies. First off, the Lawnmower 4.0. This trimmer is the future of grooming and, dare I say, the greatest ball trimmer ever. I am blown away by the performance and craftsmanship of this trimmer. Their 4th generation trimmer offers cutting-edge ceramic blade to help reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. Their Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof and also has a 4000K LED spotlight so you can get a more precise shave. Because this trimmer is waterproof, you can say goodbye to the mess on the bathroom floor. If you thought that was good but want to take your grooming even further to the next level, the Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker ears and nose hair trimmer. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate nose holes. The Crop Preserver below the waist deodorant and Crop Reviver below the waist toner will change the way you approach your daily hygiene routine. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts in this Performance Package 4.0, the boxers and the shed travel bag. Bring your comfort in boxers to another level. It's time to take care of yourself. Go to manscaped.com and get 20% off with code WEBALL. That is WEBALL, WEBALL. Make sure to use it on your next purchase with Manscaped for 20% off.
I think we should take a look at our top 5s. First up at number 5. You know what? I'll be generous. You can go first.
All right. I think that this is somebody that I didn't necessarily have much of an eye on. We saw combine stuff. We saw different rankings, and a lot of them have the same 4 or 5 guys. But I wanted to touch on a smaller school guy that really made an impact on me watching him on film, and that was Tucker Kraft. I mean, South Dakota State, not a school that you're necessarily looking at all the time, not playing against the top competition. But when you watch Tucker Kraft out there, he's on a different level than anybody else on the field. Like, he's dominant. We talk about, Michael Mayer gets the baby Gronk nickname. Tucker Kraft is quite literally just the Gronk of his, competition level. He is, super explosive down the field. I mean, you watching him block, he's just mauling guys. I mean, defensive ends, and he's making them look like defensive backs, leveling people. Really well-rounded tight end. And I think the only thing keeping me from putting him even higher on this list is the fact that we don't know what he would look like against top-level competition. He's obviously not playing in, the SEC or, he's not playing as top-level opponents. And I think that he did the most of what he was asked, but it is that kind of lowers where you would be on him. Also, he's not, some superb route runner, but just all of the physical traits are there. That the ball tracking is phenomenal. He's fluid in space. He can run people over and run by you. I mean, just the tape is an outstanding watch.
I got to watch Kraft as well. He narrowly missed out on mine. I believe I had him at 6. 6 or 7. Those two were very close together. I think he's a good player. I worry about the competition level. And I just think he's a lot more basic. Not basic, but I think some of these other guys have these X factors that put them above him, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's very much a traditional tight end.
Yes.
But the thing is that against the competition he was playing, he was a top
monster.
end.
Yeah.
He was a top level traditional tight end. And like that's
Exactly.
the thing is like you want to talk about, later on we're going to talk about Michael Mayer, kind of the same, build, like somebody who is very much a traditional, like out of the box tight end. I'm not going to dock a guy for being that kind of football player. And I think that's why I had to put Kraft this high. There were a lot of guys I liked, but had to show love to somebody who I think is just an absolute freak.
So my number 5 is a guy who we got to talk to him, OBL. Share the same first name. Luke Musgrave, the speed demon from Oregon State. Um, that's his trump card. Like his play speed is different than everybody else's. He didn't test very well. Like his 40 wasn't actually great. It wasn't what we all thought it was going to be. We thought he was going to blow everyone away in the 40. He didn't, but he
He's
still
faster
plays
in
faster.
pads.
He plays
He's
faster than
faster
you.
in pads.
It doesn't matter that his 40 wasn't good. 40s don't matter, in my opinion, except for like a specific few people. And I think you watch him play, you know he's faster than you. He's burning Pac 12 cornerbacks and safeties. Like it shouldn't affect your evaluation that his 40 was that, like, not slow, but it was slow for what we thought he was going to run. And that shouldn't affect your evaluation. He's going up against 5-star talents week in and week out, and he's making them look silly. Obviously, he has some injury concerns, which is why I think he's 5. And if he played a full season, maybe he would have been higher. But I think he's a better blocker than he gets credit for. Your favorite phrase of this group, because a lot of these guys are
Dude,
getting
a lot
knocks.
of them I think get a lot of knocks for being like bad blockers because they're not mauling against
Yeah,
edges. But like Musgrave, they like had him come across the formation and go out and like kick out and block somebody. And he does it somewhat often. There's
he's a
pass reps where he's in there to pass block too. Like,
yeah.
and when you add that on to the fact that he moves, I had him number 6. So to be fair, we kind of just like swapped guys here. We both think that they're kind of in that same tier. And I think that when you add on somebody who can be like, he has the potential to be like an average blocker, and he's
Yeah,
already a downfield threat, like maybe one of the best in this class.
he's
Probably, I don't
legit.
know.
Yes.
He's probably the second best downfield receiver at tight end in this class. And I think, I mean, that's really the name of the game for him. I
He's just
kind
a
of
good
compared him to
football
like Darren Waller is somebody that I kind of
player. Yeah.
saw like a little bit of him in, a little bit of Waller in him. And I mean, I 100% get it. I think he's a really good tight end. That's the thing. Even him being my number 6, that's like a
He's
second round
really
guy.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, and
All of
there's
these
just so
guys.
many.
It's very hard to make these distinctions. We might have left out your favorite tight end. Like that's just how it's gonna be in this group. Um, but I think Luke is a very good football player. He had to deal with some weird questions at the Senior Bowl. Very strange. We're not going to talk about it, but that was a wild situation. He handled it very well. But we're going to move on to number 4. I'm going to talk about my number 4 first because he's your number 2.
Yep.
And that just shows like how different these
The
rankings are
depth of
going to
the
be.
class, man. It's
It's
all
just
pick your
crazy.
flavor.
And
Yep.
they're all this far separated. So,
Yeah, my 2 and my like 6 are like
very
splitting
close.
hairs. Like there's probably only 1 to 2 guys that we both agree are like maybe first round guys.
Yeah.
The rest of it is like splitting hairs.
So, my number 4 is one Sam Laporta. I think, I think he's a really good football player. I know you're a lot higher on him than I am. I think he has a problem holding his blocks. I think he's a very good blocker, but I think
He's always making the right contact.
yes,
It's just
he just
whether or
can't
not
sustain it.
he's not really driving guys as much as you'd
Yeah,
like to see. I
especially
mean,
from a guy his size.
he actually is somebody that I think might be a little worse of a blocker than he gets credit for. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people see like the Iowa name and they think like, oh, he's George Kittle. Like that's how he blocks. He's definitely not that kind of
No.
mauler, but like this is something that can be taught because his hand placement's not bad. It's just he needs to get that power and start driving dudes. And to be honest, I mean, him at
He
that
can learn it.
blocking level, if he stays at the level he's at right now, that's still a pretty solid blocking tight end.
He's decent, yeah.
And that's on top of the fact that, in my opinion, him being my number 2, he's so fluid. He moves so easily. He's one of these guys that can combine speed, power, and agility in a way that not a lot of guys can. I mean, Iowa would put him in just about any situation. We know how bad their offense was last year.
Really bad. Like
Horrendous.
really.
But Laporta was a guy that, like, when they needed to go get yardage, they would put him at X and just go throw him the ball. Like, he would be out there
My
running,
thing
like,
is,
backside slants, all this different stuff. And
he's
I think
he's a good route runner too.
in the modern NFL, he's a great route runner. And in the modern NFL, my favorite thing about him is like how fluidly he can just get to a spot. You get him the ball, he can stop on a dime, turn around, and go pick you up 15 to
Yeah.
20. I think that's how the best teams use their tight ends, is not as much, hey, go run this route, go run me a corner. Not most teams aren't doing that. They're not, it's more so, hey, get to the spot by any means possible, find a soft spot, we're going to hit you and you're going to go get 15 to 20. And I think Laporta is probably, in my opinion, the best in the class at doing that.
My thing with him is he has good hands. He's very inconsistent at the catch point. I think you would think he would be better at fighting through contact in the air. Like when he's on the ground and he's catching a ball, he's going to catch it 10 times out of 10. You would think he'd be a little bit better in the air than he is.
Yeah, I don't think he's as much a downfield threat.
No, I think
He's
he's
not
get him
somebody
the
you're
ball
going
and
to
let him
throw
work.
fades to.
Yes.
He's very much a rack tight end. And I mean, I think it's better, in my opinion, at least. The two things that I was looking for in this class were how well do you block and how fluid do you move? To be honest, those are kind of my top, like my two things of the utmost importance when grading at tight end. Not even like how good are your routes, like it, and how well do you catch the ball downfield. It was more so how well do you work in space and how well do you block? And I think that Laporta was, like, in my opinion, because I put him second, the second best combination of the two.
All right, let's move on to your number 4. We talked a lot about Sam Laporta, so let's move on to your number 4, who just so happens to be my number 1 tight end, and that is, drumroll please, Dalton Kincaid.
Let's hear it.
It's Dalton Kincaid.
Dalton
Do you
Kincaid,
want to
man.
talk about him first? Because I will be ranting about him for a pretty good amount of time. So I feel
I'm gonna let you cook. I
Okay.
feel like you're a guy who's really high on him. Obviously, you're number
I'm
one
very
tight
high
end in
on
the
him.
class. I want sell me on Dalton Kincaid.
All right, the number one thing. You think I'm looking at this guy. I'm watching him play football. Then I look at his bio on HoustonFootball.com or whatever the website is. He has only played football since 2017.
Whoa.
Didn't see that coming because of the way that he can read a field. Like he is much better at reading a field
Oh
and
my
reading
God.
zones.
Him reading zone coverage.
Yeah.
I was like, because I was watching the tape and the only things I was seeing was downfield routes from him for a while. And then they got to the red zone and they had him run this little spot route.
Yep.
And he ran the spot, realized like what zone he was running into, and just subtly sidestepped. And I was like, this is exactly what I was waiting on. Like,
And he's only played football
great.
since 2017.
Dude.
And
He's
obviously, so
good.
his offense is geared to him going downfield. Like that's what
Yup.
the offense at Houston is geared to. It's Tank Dell running nice routes and him going downfield. Did I say you? What did I say? I think I messed up there. But yeah, he's at Utah,
you're
not
talking about
Houston.
Houston.
I'm mixing up
You're
two
talking about
different
Utah.
players.
I mean, he's at
I'm mixing up
Utah.
2 players. He's at Utah. There's a wide receiver on Utah. I don't know his name, but he moves in runs routes like that. Those 2 logos, they really screwed me on that.
They look the same. I totally
They
get it.
look the same.
They have
And
the same. They have the same structure. They've got like the white outline on the tag.
Yeah,
It's the same
it makes
thing.
me mad. But there's a wide receiver on on Utah that they let him just cook up routes, and then they let Dalton Kincaid go downfield, and Cam Rising hits him. Like he hits him every time. He's going to be a guy we're talking about next year.
Cam
But
Rising's fun. We're not
he's
going to talk
a
about
fun
him
player.
right now, but he's fun.
But the thing is, he's got crazy. Kincaid has crazy ball control, crazy body control in the air, and I think the way he was used at Utah, not Houston, is going to translate better than anyone in this class to the NFL.
Oh, immediately.
I think he's going to have an immediate impact, and I think a team who's competing at the back end of the first is going to see that and be like, this could be our guy, like for a while, and he could help us win a Super Bowl. Like in a clutch situation, he can help us win a Super Bowl.
If you had to ask me right now what tight end I think would go off the board first, my money would be on Dalton Kincaid. I mean, he
And it's
is
not that like he
like I
just
know that I
trans
put him 4, but he is
he's
it's
an
like
NFL ready.
he's the best pass catcher in the class, and it isn't remotely close.
No,
Like when it comes to
he plays like a
he's
wide receiver.
you heard what we talked about with Luke Musgrave, and you're like, okay, yeah, downfield threat, same kind of thing we're talking about with Kincaid. Musgrave and Kincaid are on a similar level attacking downfield, like far down the field. The difference is Kincaid is a stellar route runner and just operates anywhere. It doesn't matter where you put him, what kind of routes you're running him on, he's going to dominate in those spots.
I really I can't say enough about his ability to read the field, having only played football since 2017.
Dude, that you telling me that that's crazy.
It's insane.
You're selling me to put him even higher, and it's just like I like
I
him a
think
lot. The only thing is the blocking for me. It's just you're getting him to be a like a slot or like a guy that you can move around. You just don't feel comfortable with him blocking in line.
so he's 6'4", which that 6'4", 6'5" thing really like messes with people with tight ends. People go off, oh, this tight end's 6'5", but
I
then when
don't
he's 6'4",
care.
people freak out. He's 6'4", so ideally people like him to be a little bit taller. And he's 242. I think if he can get up to 250 and still be able to move the same way he does, I think people would have been a lot happier to see that number, which annoys me. But I think a little bit of mass would help him if he can add on some muscle. Um,
And
and
technique
it,
and blocking, of course. Like if you
yes,
can get him with a
obviously,
good coaching staff that could just make him slightly below average, as opposed to like right now he's kind of just a bad blocker. If you could
yes.
get him to be
All he has to do
even
is be
just
average.
even slightly below average, you would feel like that he's
Top tight end. He's a
dangerous.
top tight end.
Yes,
That's all I'll
immediately.
say on him. I don't know if you want to move on to our, co number 3. We both have someone in the same spot, which is a miracle in this class.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably good to move on to him. I think somebody who a lot of people are high on has dominated since he got to Notre Dame, revealing exactly who it is. It's Michael Mayer. I mean, we were talking about him earlier, the baby Gronk nickname. He's just the epitome of consistency. A
Yes.
really good blocker, really good pass catcher. I think the reason that we both have him number 3 and not number 2 or number 1 is it just doesn't feel like there's an X factor.
It's
It,
it's the way that I feel about Kraft, but I know Mayer's a better player.
Yeah, and he played this way against top competition. He didn't play
Yeah.
this way against like
He
God
is
knows
getting
who.
like quadruple teamed. Like they'll be putting 2 people on him and shadowing a safety over him. And they've been doing that for like 2 years because he's really the only threat in that offense. Um, but listen, he made Ian Book look like a legit quarterback. So for that, I think he has to be high on this list
Yeah.
because that guy is really bad at football. He got him drafted. Like that's what I'll say. He got that man
Hey,
drafted.
Ian Book got an NFL start in
Yeah,
2021.
first the
So
Giants.
and the
And
Dolphins
I
too.
think he won.
He
But
he he lost to Miami and it was one of the worst Thursday night games or whatever it was I've ever seen.
oh,
But Michael Mayer, man, like
he's so good at football.
I have to admit, him being number 3, it might be a bit of
Fatigue.
fatigue on the fact that I think we both, it's
We've heard
just a
about him
name
for a
we've been
while.
hearing since like 2018 at this point, almost like 2019 ish.
Yeah.
Like it's just a name we've been hearing like pre-COVID. So
I
like I
remember
think
people
that this
being
is
like, if he was coming out at the same time as Kyle Pitts, there would be a legit conversation. First of all,
dude.
no,
Yeah,
there
we were
wouldn't.
hearing it then. Yeah,
Like
that was like the 21
20,
class. Like we've been hearing
yeah,
that forever.
it's been a while.
So, but really consistent blocker. I mean, he's not like a super like mauler type. He's not the best blocker in this class,
But he sustains
and
his blocks.
but he
So
sustains his blocks. He can move guys. I think you don't feel bad at all about putting him against edges or anything like that. I think that down the field, pretty good pass catcher. He's not the kind of like Kincaid guy that you want to like move and have him go like run in space and go make catches like big over the middle of the field and get yak and all that. But I mean, he's just the epitome of
he's a good football
consistency. I don't
player.
think there's much else to talk about with him.
No.
But we both, I believe, just have one player left. My number 1, your number 2. And if you've been paying attention, process of
You know who
elimination, you know exactly who this is. It's Darnell Washington, man. And it's kind of crazy that we're looking at a team and we're looking at, in general, like a tight end who is tight end 1 for me in this class, 2 for you, who
He's
last
the
year
backup.
wasn't even the tight end 1 in his
He's
own
the backup.
offense. I mean, the way we're going to be talking about Brock Bowers next year is going to be insane.
Brock
But
Bowers is so good at football.
Darnell Washington, this dude blocks like a tackle.
Because he's the size of a tackle.
Yeah, he's what, 6'7"?
6'8".
Let's get the Darnell Washington measurements real quick.
I'll talk about him while you get the measurements.
Yep, you can.
The guy was
bit.
used as a literal freight train for Brock Bowers to run behind. They sent him up the field just to like Moses part the Red Sea, and Brock Bowers would catch and run behind him like a legitimate train, and they would just score touchdowns. Him and Brock Bowers, the reason Stetson Bennett isn't working at Raising Cane's right now. Those two guys are absolute monsters. Darnell Washington is inhuman in size, speed, like all that stuff combined makes him not
100%.
look like a human. And his height is.
He came in at 6'7", 264 with 11-inch hands and ran a 4.64 40.
Come on. That's ridiculous.
Dude, he is a freak. I mean, the thing is you hear about the blocking, and he genuinely blocks like a tackle. Teams that don't have a good offensive line might genuinely look to him to be like, we're going to throw you out like a sixth lineman. And the thing is, he can pass catch too. Obviously, he's not like the quickest guy, but he's a lot more fluid than I think a lot of people think he is. I think a lot of people look at him as breaks. I mean, not exactly. I'm not talking about breaks. I'm just talking about if you get him the ball in space, he does a decent amount with it. Like, that's the kind of thing. He can go up and pluck the ball. We saw the clip from the combine where he just had that crazy one-handed catch. I mean, the hands are fantastic. You're not looking for him to be somebody that you want to go send out on like quick slants and have him run like he's not a finesse tight end by any means. Sam Laporta, you're going to run out when you're talking about routes. You're going to talk about a lot of like quick kind of stuff underneath. That's not Darnell's game, but I really do think that he can operate at least a decent level at like the short and intermediate levels of the field. I think he can be at least average. And when you combine that with the fact that he's one of the best blocking tight ends we've seen in recent memory, he's got to be number one. He's just a freak, and I can't pass it up.
Do the Brock Bowers thing, right? You do the thing where you have them on the field at the same time, but you do it with Travis Kelce. That's all I have to say, Chiefs. Draft the guy in the first round. I don't care if you have
let him fall to 51.
That won't happen in any universe. Just Chiefs. Just do it. Like, who cares? Take a swing. You guys, you won a Super Bowl. Do it again. Take another swing.
Imagine what that could do for their running game, too. Like, you're talking about
Pacheco is going
doing the fast game stuff. You're telling me you could have Pacheco on, like, with that offensive line that's already vastly improved, running behind Darnell Washington? Like
come on.
Dude, I'm so in.
Come on. Like, just do it. Have fun. Be fun, Andy.
And he's a good pass catcher. Like, that's the thing. He's not a bad pass catcher by any means. I really do think that we are underrating Darnell Washington. Like, a guy that he reminds me of before we close here. I think that his blocking reminds me of late stages Gronk. Like 2018 Gronk, when they were running through the league, Sony Michel had that crazy playoff run where I think it was maybe the wild card and the divisional round where he had like 150 yards in each game, and it was because of their offensive line and Gronk. That's the kind of player that Darnell Washington reminds me of. I think down the field too, like I think he's the kind of guy that you can get in those pass catching situations and he can still succeed if need be. Like, I think he's that good. I think late stages Gronk is a genuinely like not terrible comp for him.
And with that, we are going to wrap up here. I'm going to run through both of our top fives real quick because I know that was a confusing episode because we were very out of order. Tyler DeSena, your top five was Kraft, Kincaid, Mayer, Laporta, Washington from 5 to 1. Mine from 5 to 1 was Luke Musgrave, Laporta, Michael Mayer, Darnell Washington, and Dalton Kincaid. That is our order. We got quarterbacks next, folks. So stay tuned. It's going to be a very feisty episode. I'll tell you that much. But we are the Wee Ball Podcast. We thank you so much for listening or watching wherever you're doing it. Like, comment, subscribe, leave a rating. 5 stars is preferred, but if it's not 5 stars, whatever you have to say it with your chest. We thank you for your support, and we hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you, and Wee Ball.